that's what we're going to go in depth about. So,
Hello.
hey, Justin, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh, good. How about you guys?
Oh, not too
Oh,
bad,
pretty
man.
good.
I appreciate you coming on. I know you said you're feeling under the weather today. Man, I appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's talk about the Bass Pro Tour. I know you come from the Bass Elites, and coming over to the Bass Pro Tour, it's a whole different way of fishing. Mindset and all that. Let's talk a little bit about your season and how your season went. I mean, do you have anything starting off that you wished you would have maybe changed up, or a lake that would have went a little bit better for you this year?
Yeah, I mean, you can always look back and think about a lake or a tournament that should have gone better, but for me, it was just more about, just getting the strategy down. Took a few tournaments to get a good strategy and game plan down for the way that I needed to attack those tournaments, just because you can't afford to run around. It's not like
Yeah.
you take off and, run. You can't run an hour to catch 5 fish. You got to be able to maximize the 7.5 hours that you have to fish. And I didn't do that well in the first 3 or 4 tournaments, but I got it figured out after that.
Now, when it comes to practicing, like say you got a whole nother strategy. When you practice now, are you is there two ways you can practice now? You're just looking for the most bites, or are you also going out and just trying to find good quality fish?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking for bites. If you go out there and you're really getting a lot of bites, you're going to put quality fish in the boat most of the time as well. That really just kind of depends on bodies of water. If you go to a table rock, we did see a lot of smaller fish caught there, but that's really was the only instance where small fish were really a big factor in the top 10 or so, whatever you want to call it. But I'm looking for as many bites as I can get. I know that there's going to be good quality fish when I do that, and I'm also looking for as many spots in a small area that I can find. That way that I can bounce to and from without having to run very far and killing that time during the periods.
Yeah. Now it seems like too, like I could be wrong on this. It just seems like it's more of a laid back style series, though. You know what I mean? It seems like the guys, when you watch live, it seems like the guys are having a lot more fun. Because they're catching numbers. They can, in elites, if 2 pounders, like you're like crap. I need something bigger than this, which you need that still.
Well, I
But
mean, we're definitely having a good time, but it is far more not laid back, because you can't sit there and ever really feel okay, unless you had a really really big day. But most of the time, you're always not that far from a cut, getting cut one way or the other, or making a cut or missing it.
yeah,
And so it's extremely stressful, but that's part of the reason I love it so much, is that it puts a lot of pressure on the anglers, and those guys that can perform with that pressure put on them. That's really what, in my opinion, makes the bass fishing feel like a true sport once you get to that point.
yeah. Well, that's what there's been a lot of people talking, especially like the hardcore bass guys and all that. They've talked about how they didn't like it was a dink fest, but on certain events, and I you try to have these conversations when it's like, well, they've hit some of these bodies of water kind of the wrong time, because the schedule was put together so quick, and it was still being put together, I guess, kind of as the season was going on certain events. But I think it keeps it real, for the average guy out there. I like seeing a guy go out there and like, man, I just need a 1 pounder, to make the cut. That's the kind of stuff I like to see.
Yeah, it's got to, there's definitely, it's just an adjustment. It's when every fish matters like that, until you, and hopefully this time is coming very soon where other people can fish this way. Rumors are out there. Everybody's probably heard them by now. I won't discuss any of those, but when it comes where people can fish this way, they will see how much fun it really is. And you can't listen, if I'm throwing a chatterbait or a swim jig, or a flipping bait, which we saw several guys do, or a crankbait, you can't just always say that you're just targeting dinks. You're
Yeah.
you're fishing for whatever will bite. And that really you didn't have to change your style of fishing, except for maybe a couple guys did at some of the places we went, but for the most part, so many fish were still caught on a bait caster on power techniques and the same techniques that generally win 5 fish tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean a jig and all that still is always going to have a spot in tournaments like that, you know. But you do see like
100%.
more guys throwing, which a lot of people throw wacky rigs still, but you just see like Jacob Proznik earlier this year, throwing, winning off a wacky rig, and just getting a
Yeah.
lot of bites, So
When I won Angler of the Year at Bass last year, I bet you I caught maybe 30 to 40% of my fish that year on a wacky rig that I weighed in.
that's crazy,
So,
man.
yeah.
I had the opportunity to go out with Mark Daniels on the Bassmasters Classic. What was it, James? 2 years ago, year ago, yeah, 2 years
Yes.
ago, and he was throwing a Nico rig, and I've heard about it, but never watched anybody really throw it and all that. And I watched how many fish he caught, and I come back to Smith, and now I don't even like throwing a shaky head anymore. I like throwing a Nico rig. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy how many fish you can catch off of that stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the shaky head's still great too, and of course the drop shot. They all have their time and place where they're,
Yeah,
better than the other.
yeah, exactly. Now going into this coming up year, have y'all heard much with the schedule and how that's going to go?
I actually haven't heard anything on the schedule. I know that the hope is that they can just pretty much take us to places where 1 to 2 pounders don't matter. That's not our goal at Major League Fishing, is for it to be a 1 to 2 pound average. We want that average to be up, and we know a big part of that is based on scheduling. So
Yeah,
hopefully the schedule they come out with is suitable towards that, and I think we're going to see some really good places on there.
yeah, yeah. The North Carolina event was, when y'all went to North Carolina and
That was
fished,
awesome.
that
Awesome.
was
It was
phenomenal.
great to caught in that tournament, man. Very
Yeah,
impressive place.
yeah, I loved seeing it. I would like to see the Bass Pro Tour go more on like some tidal water stuff, and I know you would like that. You've grown up fishing tidal water stuff, so do
Oh yeah, love tide.
do you think they will ever? Do you?
Yeah, 100%. We're gonna listen. We had one season with 8 tournaments, and like you said before, we were still putting it together as the season was going on. So
Yeah,
we will hit all different kinds of bodies of water. We will hit multiple new bodies of water where there's never been bass tournaments held before, of on a national level. And that's one of the things that's so cool about it is going to North Carolina and fishing there like we did, and being able to catch giant fish in North Carolina that have never had a national tournament on that lake before, or those lakes. So
yeah,
there's a lot of that to come. Tidal water, big smallmouth stuff on the Great Lakes. I'm sure we'll see a little bit of everything. Diversity is the key with scheduling to really, Edwin did an amazing job winning Angler of the Year, or the points title this year. But, I always love seeing a diverse schedule. I think that guys shouldn't be able to go to the one thing that our tour does favor is guys going to the bank and just fishing shallow this season. It really favored that, and I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it to the point where, hey, most of the checks come offshore. Because that puts those guys that are just shallow fishermen. They've got to adapt and change, and I have no doubt that Edwin would have done that this year. He had arguably one of the best years a professional fisherman has ever had. But just moving forward, on and
yeah.
on down the road, it's really important for a diverse schedule.
And it just amazed me how consistent he was this year. That's hard to be
Incredible.
consistent in that.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's hard to be
Yeah.
consistent in that level, especially with the. I mean, y'all got a group of guys that are from FLW, Bass, that are just phenomenal fishermen. You know what I mean? They're handpicked or whatever you want to say. Phenomenal fishermen in that series, and to be able to stay consistent like that, that's amazing. Especially with the amount of fish that you can catch now. it's just crazy.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
But
Once we have our feeder system built in, man, and guys are, 2 years from now qualify for the Bass Pro Tour, there's going to be some guys that have a rude awakening when they get there, because these guys are incredibly good. It's scary how good they are. And you can look down the list of guys, man, and see the guys and the names that miss checks and how far down they are. And that really tells you the quality of the field.
Yeah. it just amazes me how many fish you guys catch. Like I'll go and at work, I'll be listening to it, and then I'll go back and check a leaderboard. And I'm like, good Lord Almighty, look how many! It's like vacuum cleaners going up there. I mean, they catch every single fish that's on that bank. It seems like.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
But like I say, it makes it real. I think it's really cool to watch, and just for the fan side of it, just to be able to follow it, and see a guy come from, he might have had his first half of the day was garbage, and then go through a flurry and move from 20th to 5th. I mean, it's just amazing to watch it go that way, and
Sure.
it's quick.
Yep.
But let's talk a little bit, Justin. I know a lot of people that have been following you, and you've come up in some of the kayak and forums and all that with the pictures and stuff. But let's talk a little bit about your off season and kayaking for you. Is that something that you love to do? Have you looked at any of the kayak tournaments as well?
Yeah, not interested. I am not. I do it strictly for fun. If I started fishing kayak tournaments, it would just become too stressful, and it would take the fun out of it for me. So really, it's what I do to get away from dog days of summer on Lake Gunnersville when you're just sitting out there and it's 95 to 100 degrees, and I can go down some of the little rivers that are connected to the Tennessee River and get in the shade and cooler water and catch a heck of a lot more fish than I can on the main lakes. So it's just a lot of fun, and that's all I do it for is strictly for fun. It's just I love the adventure of it, and I have no interest in fishing kayak tournaments. And there's one coming up at Gunnersville, and several people trying to ask me to come and fish it and all that. And no disrespect to kayak tournament anglers, but you guys, they can do their thing. I will happily just do kayak fishing for fun, man, because I really enjoy it.
Yeah, James, you got some stuff for him? I know we was talking about that earlier.
When you're fishing out of a kayak, have you noticed the differences, like the way that you fish or anything like that?
Not really. Just I not really, man. I downsize a little bit because I know that some of the fish I'm after, there's not a ton of 3-pounders even where I kayak fish. A good day would be 12 to 15 pounds, I guess, for my best 5, if you were going to say that. But I downsize a little bit, on some baits, a lot of like 3-inch Berkeley pit boss and little 1/4-ounce Mullix buzz bait. Those are a couple things that I just always have in the kayak. But one thing I love doing is just being able to stand up on the kayak and make those really accurate casts under a tree that's got shade with some current coming by it. And you just know there's one there. If you can put the bait in there, and present it correctly, you're going to get bit. And that's really what's so fun about it, is being able to call your shots like that.
Yeah. The only thing I've noticed different when I kayak fish is I've noticed I've changed my weights of my rods up just a little bit more. I go a little bit stiffer than I normally would at a bass boat.
Gotcha.
Just for setting the hook and everything like that.
Yeah, I've gone to smaller rods, like 6.5 to 7 foot instead of 7.3s and 7.6s. Or, that's probably what I use more than anything is 7.3s and 7.6s. But definitely everything I use is 6.5 to 7 in the kayak.
Cool. Did you have anything else, Josh, that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, that's what I was, I know you say you don't do no tournaments or nothing like that, but what is your thoughts on the kayak? Now, I don't want to say the month-long events because I don't know if you know much about them, but the actual in-person kayak events itself, what is your thoughts on that and the growing industry on that?
I really don't know much about it, to be honest, other than just living at Lake Gunnersville. I've seen a lot more tournaments over the past couple of years out there. Now, I mean, I have nothing bad to say about kayak tournaments. I think it's great. I think it's a great introductory way to get into the sport, and I'm certainly all for it. Nothing bad to say. All good stuff. It's just awesome that you can, for $1,000, you can get in a kayak and be able to go bass fishing.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't have to be a brand new bass boat. And that's certainly great if you want to get a brand new bass boat. I still love my bass boat. I'd never traded in for just strictly a kayak. But I really do like to be able to mix it up too, and for people that just are getting into the sport, kind of a new hobby for them or whatever, it's a great way to get into it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I know we've James was actually just talking. He sold his boat today. It actually drove out the driveway. Well, a guy pulled it out the driveway today, and
Yeah.
he's been an emotional wreck for a little while. But
Right.
and I sold mine last year. But like I say, it's I didn't have much time in mine. It was the same thing with James. We didn't have much time in them, but it's something about the whole kayaking side that's got addictive. Like I say, just hitting the rivers. It kind of, for me, it was going back to grassroots, kind of out there having
Oh
fun.
yeah.
But
Yeah. 100%.
Chris, you say we got a question?
Yeah, Russell wants to know how he would approach an MLF tournament on a lake in northern Alabama the second week of November, whether it's Gunnersville, Wheeler, or Pickwick.
Ooh.
I mean, it just depends. Those are all three. They do fish really differently. I would say the one thing, if you can throw an Alabama rig in November in that tournament, you better have it on. It's just really hard to compete against the Alabama rig that time of year. That's when it shines. Otherwise, a fluke type bait, like a soft jerk bait. I throw that Berkeley jerk shad. It's a really good bait for schooling fish on the edge of grass and really shines that time of year. And you can even double rig it. I think they call it like a donkey rig or whatever. But I went out the other day doing that, putting two of those jerk shads together. That's a really, really good way to catch them too. And you can catch good ones in a lot of numbers. So, yeah, I would say Alabama rig or, the donkey rig or just a single jerk shad.
That was a good question, Russell. Thank you. Yeah, that's what we can kind of get into. We always do an in-depth segment, and we normally do whatever the time of the year is going on right now. So I don't know how it is where you're at right now, but Virginia, we ain't had no rain. Well, at least where I'm at in Virginia. James has had plenty of rain, but where we're at, it's dry conditions. We're late summer. Actually, Gary hit fall. Supposedly, it's still going to be 90 degrees this week.
Yeah.
But what are some things that you look for when this time of the year to start finding bass? I know they're starting to go that migration route. What are some things that you look for?
Well, I mean, if you just go based off of history, this time of year you start, as it starts to cool down, you start looking for the shad towards the backs of the creeks and top waters, little buzz baits, poppers, stuff like that. This is the time of year they really shine. The spinner bait, they just get really heavy feeding on shad this time of year, and that's kind of the whole thing. Is you just need to find where they're at. And if you can find the shad, you're probably definitely going to find bass for the next 2 to 3 months, no doubt about it.
Is there a magical water temperature that you look for before you move back here? Like, say water temperature is 86 something here. You're going to be. Are you still going to start moving back there, or are you waiting for that temperature to hit a certain spot?
No, I just think that all regions of the country are different. There's some regions that it might happen where the water temp's warmer, than another region, and so I never really like to say for sure because it's so different. If you're in Raleigh, North Carolina, and you have all those lakes around there, I don't live around there. I don't know what the magic temp is there, but it might not be the same that it is in Alabama. And so, it's hard to say on that, but it's just a matter really of covering water, and just getting, the feel for it while you're on the water and being able to adjust, once you start getting some clues or answers, that you're looking for.
Yeah. Chris, we got another question?
Yeah, Joshua wants to know what a good rod to throw the A-rig that's on not too expensive.
There's an Iconelli rod that I really like. It's a 7'10". I think it's a medium heavy, 7'10", and it's nice because it's got a really long handle on it, so you can make a good cast with it throughout the day. It's pretty much like a lighter swim bait rod, and that's kind of what you want. Anything that's 7.5 to 8 feet with a long handle is going to be a good rod for that technique.
Yeah. Now, do you go around here? A lot of guys throw the Alabama rig on braid, and they just use like a thinner wire hook. So if it gets hung up, you can pull it out good and out of a brush pile, whatever. Is that some stuff you recommend too with that? Do you throw braid?
I like braid to a fluorocarbon leader. I haven't thrown it in a couple of years, but braid, I do like 40 or 50 pound braid, and I like a smooth braid, so like a Berkeley X9 would be what I'd probably be after, and then I'll do a 17 or 20 pound liter of fluorocarbon, probably 4 feet of that, and I'll tie a crazy Alberto knot to join the two. And that would be the way that I would like to throw it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm really confident tying that crazy Alberto knot, and I know how good it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't fail me, so it's a good setup.
Now I know, I really didn't plan on getting onto the Alabama rig part of it, but since we're going with it, let's roll. But a lot of people throw the Alabama rig deep. I know a lot of guys that fish deep brush piles and all that with it. But have you used that too also as a shallow water presentation, like say around docks and all that?
You're talking about the Alabama rig?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually caught my best bag at Gunnersville. In a tournament a few years ago, it was an early spring, even late winter, really. I caught them all 2 to 5 feet deep, pretty much, all on an A rig. So it works in all depths.
Yeah.
Again, it's just where is the bait, where are the fish moved in, are they deep, are they pushed up shallow? That's just the main thing for it. If you're throwing it where the fish aren't and where there isn't any bait, it's not going to get bit, but it'll certainly catch them in 2 feet of water. You just got to put a lot lighter heads on, or it'll catch them all the way down to, I've got them as deep as 35 feet on it. So
yeah,
it is versatile as far as depth range goes.
I got you. Well, man, I just got a couple more questions for you. Not unless something else comes through on the live stream here, but I know that you've come out of bass. Is there anything, do you still miss bass? Like the Bassmasters Classic is going to come up. Well, I say getting ready to come up. We got a couple months, but that's going to be coming up here in a couple months. Are you going to miss that feeling coming through the arena and all that?
There's definitely. I mean, I think everybody would be lying if they said there wasn't a part of them that missed that. But the times had changed, and they were way out of my hands as far as the powers, that were taking over and changing things and stuff like that. So, I have nothing bad to say about bass. They were treated me great. Heck, I spent my first 4 years at FLW, 5 at Bass, and now 1 at Major League Fishing. So I've been around, fished all the tours. Most of the guys have, and people, they shouldn't really have anything bad to say about any of them because they've all, helped those people further their career. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some things that, that I'll miss over there, but I feel like there's a lot of positives and upside over here, to really, to really move the sport in a new direction. And, the main goal is to be able to open it up to a much wider audience. And if we can do that, we've got the feeling of, bass fishing feeling like a sport now, when you know where you're at and you're under a time clock, and the pressure that puts on you. And when people see that, that last hour of every day in a Bass Pro Tour, when there's a cut to be made, that's the most exciting time to watch it. And that's because all of a sudden these guys are under pressure, and you really truly find out who they are, when that's going down. And, I really believe that that's what it will take to get a bigger, larger audience following our sport.
And I think it's awesome that they're going to like Discovery Channel, so you're getting a whole new,
it takes that.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're getting a whole new group of eyes on it. They'll be skimming through, oh man, what's this? And see, like, if a guy loses a fish, how important it is to him, whether it be a 1 pounder or a 5 pounder, how important that fish was that he lost, so it's going to build that intensity. And I think the Bass Pro Tour is on the right track, and I'm excited for what you guys have coming up this year. I don't even know nothing about it, but just I know what they had this year, and I know they're planning to make it better.
Yeah, well, for first year, it exceeded my expectations, and I'm very excited moving forward, and all the guys that I know are as well. So it's going to be a really good thing.
Yeah. Well, Justin, man, I really appreciate you coming on tonight, dude. And like I say, I know you was feeling under the weather, but I really appreciate you coming on, and looking forward
That's
to
all
seeing.
right. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. And look forward to following you next year, and good luck to you, man.
All right, stay off my little kayak waters now. I don't want to be catching you guys out there.
I'll find you.
Top secret stuff.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, buddy.
See you guys.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.